A very warm welcome to our session today. My name is John Shackleton, and I'm going to be moderating today. As we get started, could you tell us in the Q&A box where you are from and whether you work with teachers at the pre-service or at the in-service level? Okay, quick shout out for us, please, as we get started. Okay, if you're just joining us, if you could use the Q&A box to tell us where you're from and whether you work with teachers at pre-service or at the in-service level. You can see we've got some colleagues joining us from Egypt. So if you use the Q&A box for that quick shout out, it would be great. Argentina, UK, Turkey, very warm welcome. So today's session is entitled Artificial Intelligence, AI, in Teacher Education, Lessons and Practices from a Community of Practice for Teacher Educators. So that's our session. We've got a few housekeeping details to look at first before we introduce the presenters. So if we could have here we go. So as we were saying, so the Q&A box, that's for questions or comments for our panel to discuss and answer. We will try and get to all of the questions and comments that come in. It's a very interesting theme, so we imagine there'll be lots of questions and comments, but we will try to get to as many as we can. At the end of the webinar, there'll be information that you'll receive about how to get your certificate of attendance. And of course, we'll be recording the session. So if you missed anything or if you want to review it, there'll be an opportunity to do that via the recording. Okay then, so I'd like now to introduce our speakers for today. So I'm joined by Shirin Soyers, who, as you can see, is a teacher educator, works very closely with the British Council. Next, we have Elena Onchevska-Eger, who is from the University of Cyril and Methodius University in Skopje, North Macedonia. We're also joined by Diana Morbedadze, who's a teacher educator and a researcher who's joining us from Georgia. Janet Ayub from the Lebanese University. Sylvia Retaroli, a teacher educator who's with us all the way from Argentina. And Zarina Zakhanova, who is joining us as a teacher educator from Kazakhstan. So a warm welcome to you, a warm welcome to our presenters. And I'm now going to hand over to Shirin Soyers, who's going to set the scene a little bit for today's session. Shirin, welcome.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, John, and hello everyone. So let me share our slides first. Okay, I hope you can all see and hear me. So, and yes, the purpose of our presentation is to share our learning from the AI Roundtable, which is a community of practice that we launched early this year in February 2024. We set up an online community of practice for teacher educators by teacher educators from 18 countries. And our goal was to create a space for us to discuss, to explore the implications, integration of AI in education, in particularly teacher education. You can see some screenshots from our live sessions on the site. And in this presentation, we'll not only discuss our learning about AI, but also share how we set up an effective community of practice with you, with schools opening in different parts of the world. This might be the perfect time, actually, to think about building your own community, and we hope our experience will give you some ideas to get started. So let me tell you a little bit about the background of our community. So the rationale behind our community of practice was the fact that AI has become our new World Wide Web. and it's not a distant possibility. It's not a choice anymore, and it's here to stay. It's a reality, and it's here to stay. And we, as teacher educators, wanted to find out more about this. And one of the most important points is that AI is a complex technology that requires ongoing engagement and study. So therefore, and for someone who has just started learning about AI, it can be quite overwhelming because there are so many tools emerging, so many publications, and it might make it a little bit difficult to navigate and explore it on your own. Therefore, in this context, we thought a community of practice emerged as the best approach for this purpose, for our community. And we set it up. And let me give you a little bit about our foundation. So we used some frameworks to guide us, and one of them is the Community of Practice framework by Wenger, and it has 3 components. So our domain was AI in education and teacher education, as we are all working with teachers, and the community was teacher educators from 18 different countries. And I'd like to tell you about our practice, what we did together briefly. And another framework that we used to design the content, the activities of our community was the Community of Inquiry by Garrison. And Garrison's framework has 3 components. The Community of Inquiry framework has teaching presence, social presence, and cognitive presence. And the cognitive presence, for the cognitive presence, there is a model which is called the practical inquiry model, which provides a clear stages to design such communities. And we adapted the practical inquiry framework model to design our community activities and stages. And we had 4 stages. So for the first orientation stage, we got to know each other, we set the expectations and familiarized with the objectives of our AI roundtable. And in the conceptualization stage, we worked together to discuss our role as teacher educators and AI's role in education. And we brainstormed questions, we identified our skills gaps, and we looked at different publications and try to explore, discuss how we could explore them together. In the investigation stage, this stage involved deeper inquiry and research, so where we looked at frameworks, AI tools, ethical considerations, and then finally we reflected on the outcomes and generated new questions for further inquiry. In terms of our activities, we had weekly discussions and fortnightly live sessions because we thought we needed more time to discuss and to digest what we have learned. And we had guest speakers, but our participants also presented. So we had a diversity of participants with some participants with more experience with AI. They presented their learning and experience to the rest of the community. And we also had resources. I think that was one of the best parts. I read a lot during this community duration of the community activities, and we had some topics discussed. So we had a plan. Actually, we planned the whole process. Of course, there were some things emerging, but we had these topics in place. We started from more simpler topics like prompt engineering, AI tools for teachers, for learners, and then to more complicated, more sophisticated topics like AI frameworks and ethical considerations and AI, the role of AI in assessments. And the collaborative outputs process was the key for our community's success. As participants moved through these stages, they worked together to co-create resources and share experiences in small groups. So in addition to working as a whole group, we also worked in small groups. To build these small groups, we first brainstormed our questions at the beginning of our community, and then we grouped these questions into themes using an AI tool, and then we shared these with our participants. And everybody, including the community facilitator, myself, we selected which themes we would like to explore further. So based on our needs, interests, skills gaps, and then we work together with our small community groups to produce these collaborative outputs. There was also peer reviewing and presentation stage in the end. And in this presentation, you will listen to some of our participants, members of our community who produced some collaborative outputs together, and they will present their learning. And I'd like to invite Elena and Silvia now to present us their collaborative output. All of them are very interesting, and yeah, we have learned a lot from each other's experiences as well. So over to you, Silvia and Elena.
Thank you very much, Shirin. Silvia and I worked on a very interesting topic. We had a shared challenge in a very different, admittedly very different teaching contexts, of how do we maximize feedback for our learners. By this, we mean how do we get more opportunities for our learners to get formative feedback so that they can produce better quality work more of the time. Obviously, as educators in charge of a group of learners, we're not, it's not physically possible for us to provide formative feedback, you know, all the time. So we saw the advent of AI as an opportunity to maximize the amount of feedback our learners received. Now, as I said, we worked in very different contexts. I work in a university setting. I work with pre-service teachers, and as part of my work, I supervise BA students' thesis writing. So it's a very short piece of writing which has to adhere to this research study format, you know, the usual introduction, literature review, research methodology, findings, and discussion. It's a short bit of writing. However, my students receive very limited support for this kind of writing during the education, and therefore they struggle. And usually the very first draft they get to me is not a very high standard, not because it's not their fault, obviously. The system needs to make sure that they are properly supported, which they aren't always at the moment. And the result is lots of feedback on my part. By the way, I have to say the time within which they need to write these bits of writing is not very long, so they have to be quick. And therefore, they sometimes felt overwhelmed by the amount of feedback on my part, and therefore disempowered. My puzzle, the problem that I was trying to solve on this as part of this community of practice was, can I gauge the AI to help me, to be my feedback assistant of sorts, to help me provide feedback for my students so that they can improve their writing before submitting a second, let's say, draft to me. I felt that they would feel a lot more empowered to submit writing that they're more proud of in a private space without me necessarily seeing their drafts first. So as you can see, I'm trying to use AI in my context, not in the usual content generation kind of way. I'm not interested in the AI writing feedback on my behalf. I'm interested, however, in my students getting more support for their writing, and therefore I felt the AI could do this bit of work, supporting them to submit writing that they're more proud of. Therefore, I'm saving time because the writing will be of a better standard, and therefore I'll provide more targeted feedback. And it was a challenge even working with the AI. I found that one model was not always fit for purpose. Therefore, it struggled to potentially provide stricter, more critical support. It was, as we know, AI models are trained to please. Therefore, it was a challenge to kind of get it to be more analytical. And the way out was to combine different AI models to meet this challenge. So therefore, I started off with ChatGPT-4, and therefore it turned out very narrative. We decided to use to combine it with Claude Sonnet. And therefore, the combination of the two AI models turned out to be to work for us. And therefore, the AI was finally able to be more critical and provide marks that I would agree with. So as I said, the overriding principle is to use AI for empowering people rather than necessarily replacing teachers. So in the way I used AI, I felt it was more of my feedback assistant rather than a replacement for my expertise. And if you would like to learn more, I'm sure Andrea will put in the chat box a link to a platform called Noticing. This project is in effect an extension to our work there. If you're interested and if you would like to find out more, I would be delighted to be in touch.
Elena, can I butt in?
Of course.
Yes, okay, thank you. I would like to share my experience working with Elena. You know that when we work as teacher educators, we notice that there are many challenges teachers have. For example, formative assessment. This is a big challenge for teachers, and it's not just a tool for measuring progress, it plays a pivotal role in shaping the entire learning process. It's much more than checking for understanding. It's about guiding students along their journey, their learning journey, offering them timely feedback. But, well, when teachers are first introduced to formative assessment, they often face the big challenge, the time and the effort it takes to provide meaningful personalized feedback. That is why when I joined this community, the first thing I wanted to find out was whether AI might help us, because I had this question all the time. How can teachers ensure that learners receive the feedback they need to move forward? And how can we, teacher educators, support teachers in providing constructive feedback without overwhelming them, so that they, in turn, support their learners in their learning process? So this was the idea I had in mind. I'm working as an academic consultant at the school where I worked as a head for 30 years. So being an academic consultant, I thought of bringing in this idea of testing prompt, AI prompts and all that. So to tackle this challenge of providing timely and constructive feedback, I chose to work with ChatGPT 3.5 to design a prompt that would simulate peer feedback. Next slide, please, Shirin. So these are the questions that I first considered. What role will AI play? What is AI's goal? What instructions does AI need? What pedagogy underlies this approach? And how should I limit AI to prevent it from acting in unexpected ways? As you can see, I used these angle brackets to signal out what I wanted AI to pay attention to. First of all, the role I wanted AI to play so as to provide constructive feedback. The goal, what for? The steps, they need to be very clear and down to earth. Otherwise, AI will not be helpful. The pedagogy, of course, what I mentioned before, I believe that formative assessment helps learners move forward, and that is what I expect AI to do. And of course, the big challenge was the last question. How should I limit the AI to prevent it from acting in unexpected ways? Next slide, please, Shirin. So at the beginning, the prompts, as Elena says, offered vague and imprecise feedback, or they praised too much, or they just, these prompts just guided AI to produce things that we were not expecting it to produce. For example, using criteria that we were not considering. That's why we started using this structured prompting approach with the angle brackets that would signal out each criteria and each descriptor. And in this way, what we managed to do with the improved structure prompt help provide my learners with feedback on their descriptive text, which was the aim. But at the beginning, it only highlighted their strengths effectively. As we went over and over again with the help of an experienced programmer as well, we managed to get AI to address areas needing improvement as well. I hope, I try to rush, but this is what actually happened. Then we can give you more details. Thank you.
Okay, just to say that thank you very much so far with the questions and comments that are coming in. We've got a very interesting one. We will get to those at the end of this series of presentations. So Eleanor will be very happy to answer the question that came in around which model contributed the most. Okay, but we'll go through the presentations and then we'll take questions and deal with comments. Okay then. So if we can now move on then, please, to the next two. So Janet, I can see you've popped up on the screen there. So if you'd like to begin talking about your experience, that would be great, along with Zarina.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here, with respect to our work, it's completely different. We did it. We were three with Anne Armstrong. So in our work, we acknowledge that students are already engaging with AI technologies in various capacities. So our document aims to provide a framework for AI integration in educational settings. And the guidelines here in this document will serve as a flexible resource, allowing teachers and institutions to adapt the recommendations based on their specific contexts. By doing so, really, the educators can ensure that AI usage aligns with educational objectives while prioritizing student safety, privacy, and ethical considerations. And these considerations and these guidelines will also help address challenges such as data privacy, cyberbullying, and misinformation related to AI. Now, with respect to authenticity. Now here, I have a lot of must. So students must properly cite AI tools used in their work, including the URL, to ensure transparency and maintain academic integrity by clearly distinguishing between their own contributions and AI assistance. And also, although AI-generated content can inspire ideas, students must ensure their final work reflects their own creativity and critical thinking. So this is what. In addition, students should clearly disclose the AI prompts they use to ensure transparency and distinguish their input from AI assistance. Again, this is very, very important. And this can be done through footnotes or an appendix. Now, with respect to original thinking, which is also something that we focused on in our work, so we said up here that students really should brainstorm to generate and organize their own ideas before using AI. And this is very helpful for them in order to clarify their goals and to allow them to create clear, targeted AI prompts. Also, students should write specific and focused prompts, and this is to maximize the effectiveness of AI tools. So well-crafted prompts guide the AI to produce relevant responses to improve the students' objectives, their communication, their technical and cognitive skills. And again, They can use various methods such as artwork, handwriting, or digital documents. Finally, with respect, again, they should regularly reflect. Reflection is very important in how AI affects their learning, evaluating its impact on their understanding, creativity, and problem solving, because this reflection helps them make informed decisions about technology use, promoting self-awareness and a balanced perspective on AI's benefits and challenges. Thank you, Zarina.
Thank you. So as a part of this team, we worked as a part of this team, I worked on providing safety and guidelines. Shireen, will you please change the slide? So what else I need to mention here is that there are two more things that we need to focus on that concern safeguarding. Firstly, I need to mention that it is about respecting others. As Janet has already mentioned, data protection is important, but we mostly focus on our personal data protection issues, but we as a team decided that one more thing that needs to be considered is that providing increased control over personal information of others. It is very important, it is vital to anonymize personal information of ours and as well as others. As for using respectful language, what comes to my mind here is that there is a piece of advice that says treat others the way you want to be treated. But people say does it concern AI? It surely concerns, because one of the directors of Microsoft says that, of course, AI cannot feel appreciative when you say please or thank you, but using basic etiquette when interacting with AI helps to generate perspective and collaborative output. Using polite language sets a tone for the response. Today, generative AI, it is trained to perceive human conversations, and it can easily mirror the professionalism, clarity, and detail in the prompts we provide to get the output. Shireen, will you please change the slide? So, as for critical thinking and problem solving, which was also one of the issues we dealt with, we know that today artificial intelligence is shaping the way we solve problems, but the core principles for solving problems, they remain timeless. But whenever we rely on the output that we receive from the AI and do not check the information we get, we face a risk falling into the trap of bias and faulty thinking. That is why whenever we get any output, there are certain issues, there are certain things to consider, like whether the information is true and accurate, whether it is specific and relevant, whether it is fair and usable, and maybe something is missing. So these are the basic guidelines we worked on with my team. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed, Janet and Zarina. So I'd like now to invite Diana, Georgia, to talk about her experience, her collaborative output that was a result of her participation in the community of practice. And then we'll get to the many questions and comments that are coming in. We'll deal with those in a second. Thank you very much. Diana.
Okay. Thank you, John. So our AI-powered lesson plan is designed to engage students, enhance learning, and empower teachers. It's perfect for ninth graders and higher using AI tools for interactive activities. Okay, so what is the purpose of this plan? Please, next slide. This example lesson plan will give some guidance to other teachers to simplify and enrich lesson planning through AI tools, transform static lessons into dynamic, interactive experiences. AI-powered quizzes and simulations make learning fun and reinforce key concepts. Cultivate growth mindset by embracing challenges and learning from mistakes, unlocks students' potential, fostering curiosity, creativity, and independent learning. As AI supports differentiated instructions, creating inclusive classroom where all students feel supported. Personalized learning experiences boost student engagement and motivation. Collaboration and reflection activities build empathy and social emotional skills. AI tools can also encourage critical thinking in students by analyzing information and forming conclusions. Next slide, please. Here is a lesson overview. Shortly, I can say that Flipped Classroom is to use the Mizo AI chatbot activity on growth mindset for pre-lesson homework. Then main activities come. They include video and quiz in game mode. After watching video, learners will do the quiz in a game mode. Okay, it's making fun. The power of yet activity to list skills they can't do yet. Discuss the importance of effort versus talent. Role play scenarios on reacting positivity to challenges. Set personal growth goals. Create stories using the Mizo AI chatbot according to their new experiences with AI. As for assessment, students used self-assessment checklist. Okay, this checklist is for successful learning. The Mizo chatbot gives feedback itself, or teachers can assess learners according to the rubric based on the criteria generated by ChatGPT. Next slide. We have other benefits. AI tools are free, premium, okay, accessible for all, easy to use, and require no student login. Promote learner autonomy, creativity, and adaptability for different languages, levels, and objectives. These tools save time and enhance teaching effectiveness. AI tools are designed to be engaging and supportive as the chatbot is assisting in the process. And in conclusion, I can say that this collaborative project empowers teachers to use AI for innovative lesson planning, leading to better teaching outcomes and student success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed, Diana. Okay, lots of questions and comments. I'd like to start by agreeing wholeheartedly with Boumediene Siam, who says one of the things about using AI is very polite, and it reminds us to be also very polite. A question, I think, to start off with, Eleanor, about choice of model. The two examples were ChatGPT and Claude. What are your thoughts on how to choose a good model?
Well, we started off using ChatGPT 4 only, and then we found that it is designed. These large language models are designed to please, to help, to offer quick solutions. However, if you are not looking for quick solutions, that can be irritating because you want to explore ideas, you want to use it as a soundboard more than a problem solver. So therefore, we decided to use Claude Sonnet, which is a more analytical model. And while ChatGPT is wonderful with regard to the message the user gets, what happens behind the scenes is a very analytical approach to, for instance, let's say the AI looks at the quality of the abstract that my students wrote. And if you break up the prompt into all the specific questions, for instance, are the objectives of the research there? Are the research methodologies clearly stated? All the sub-questions that there are. Then Claude Sonnet is wonderful at answering each question separately and therefore providing a very analytical answer. So therefore it's a yes, no, no, yes, yes, etc. So it can't provide this gushing feedback because the data is there. For instance, 3 out of the 5 questions haven't been answered. And therefore we received that feedback back, you know, that made the whole response a lot more down to earth, less gushing, and more objective, more analytical. So yeah, Claude Sonnet is an analytical model, and ChatGPT is a narrative one.
Great. Okay, then. Thank you very much. And very briefly, while I've still got you there, choices between paid for and free applications. That was another question that came in. What are your thoughts on that?
You get more out of the payable models, but again, it depends on what you use them for. If you're looking, for instance, in my case, we combined these two AI models programmatically. So I'm in a very fortunate position to have a programmer husband who was able to do this. I wasn't. I'm just an educator. I don't have this knowledge of how to do it. But and that was one of my learning points. You know, I feel that if we as teachers are able to team up via organizations, I don't know, like the British Council or other organizations, with professionals in the area, where we can develop really custom solutions to our problems. Because sometimes, you know, these AI models are not a magic wand, you know, they're just a tool. And they're not necessarily the solution that we need in our specific local context. Therefore, a professional in the area would be able to advise on how to combine different models.
And I think in short, that's one of the great things about the community of practice, that you get that kind of breadth of experience, different skills, etc. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Lots of other questions coming in as well. A question for I think well, anybody could answer this though. Is there a place that provides good pre-written prompts for using AI? Would anybody like to provide any guidance or advice on that, if anybody knows?
Sorry, that John, this is me, Sylvia.
Yeah, Sylvia.
Maulik and Maulik 2023, in fact, provides you with different prompts for different roles. This is what the first role, the first prompt we used with Elena when trying out our hypotheses. And we started off with Maulik and Maulik's prompt. Of course, then we had to customize it, considering the context, the teachers that were going to use it, the group of students, and the criteria, the evaluation, the assessment criteria, which was Cambridge assessment. But it's a good starting point. And then they offer prompts for different roles, not only for feedback as a feedback giver, but mentor, assistant, language assistant. So that the material is available. It's just a question of searching on the web. That's all.
Okay, and another good point there, that's a general point, isn't it, about the importance of context, about making things work in your context. Thanks very much. Shirin, you wanted to add a little bit to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add this. Yes, it's our context. So it's about trial and error. Perhaps we'll need to get our hands dirty, try and see what response we get, and then have a follow-up conversation with AI. And I also want to add that on Teaching English, British Council's Teaching English, and Nick Peachy wrote some articles, and there are some examples, so you can also use them as a starting point. Yeah, and then it's all about practice, I think.
Brilliant. Okay, and Janet also, and we've got a further question for you, but I think you wanted to say something about prompts.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say the same thing. It's better to provide more context to, or specify what needs to be replaced and with what. So this is with respect to, in general, just as an answer to the word replace. Thank you.
Great. Okay, then. And while you're there, then, there's a question that's come in. What do you think about getting students to compare doing things without and with AI? Janet or Zarina, would you like to address that question about a comparison between doing with AI or without AI?
Exactly. And I think AI should be a great support for students whether but they should know, as we said previously, Zarina and I, we focused on on the guidelines that they have to follow. So they have to, okay, you used AI, you have to say that I used AI. You have to really put the URL you used as a footnote, as an appendix, just for transparency, for integrity. So you can use it. But you have to mention that I'm using AI. Why not as a support? But again, they have to focus on reflection, what I'm using it for. Is it usable? Is it useful here in this context? This is the most important thing. So we have to teach them how to reflect.
Great.
And also we have to teach them how to think critically about what they're using. This is why we had different topics like original thinking, like critical thinking, like problem solving, all of these subtitles that we have to focus on and that we focused on, Zarina, Anne, and I in our guidelines. Thank you.
Okay,
I hope I answered the question.
I think so. Thank you very much indeed. Zarina, okay, then I think maybe the last comment in this Q&A session. I'm sorry, we didn't get to all of the questions and comments, but...
Okay, John, thank you. I just wanted to add some more comments to the question that we got. So actually, that's a very good idea to work with AI and without AI, because students will get a chance to analyze the output they receive from AI and just to compare with their own work. Besides, they can see how reliable AI can be in this case. They get the output and they can see whether the output suggested is truly reliable, and they can check like which work is more reliable, the one which is produced by them or the one which is suggested by AI. I did some things like that with my students during this term. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Lots of questions about AI in relation to plagiarism, in relation to stifling creativity, those sorts of comments. And I hope we will have time at the end to get the opinions of our panelists on that. Okay, then we'd like to move on now a little bit to more of a panel discussion. And we've got 3 questions for our panelists to think about and give their comments on. And it relates to the experience, I think, of the community of practice, which is also the focus of this session. So just a very quick general question. How did you actually produce the collaborative outputs that you talked about at the beginning? What kind of steps did you take? How did you work together? Anything really vital in relation to communities of practice and their ability to deliver products, deliver collaborative outputs? Okay, Janet, yes, please. You're on mute, I think.
Sorry. Okay. So first, we began by identifying a key issue, a key problem, the need to integrate AI into the classroom while ensuring a safe and equitable learning environment. So our aim was to protect, again, students' privacy, address data risks, and maintain academic integrity. This is what we needed to focus on. But really, well, we should mention that Shireen had really a great role in asking us, what do you need? And then in really having the groups according to what they want. So, but we encounter certain challenges, like, for example, time management. You know, we're working, all of us are working. So this is the way. And in short, this is the way we made it. But thank you for Shireen, by the way. I have to thank her.
I thank her every day. So a clear idea of the problem it is that you're trying to solve. Okay, that's great advice. Zarina, what are your thoughts on how you get to collaborative outputs through communities?
That was a very good practice, because like I felt that each of us, when we received a certain task to work on, we felt that we have like a certain degree of responsibility, not only to each other, but to the whole community. As Janet has already mentioned, there were some like problems, but what we did, we just met, we discussed, we met again, and we discussed. And here, the key thing is that is not only just discuss for discussing, but discussing, like we did discussing and trying to understand the things from each other's perspective. That's what matters a lot in collaborative outputs like that. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Diana.
Okay. In our case, as we were implementing the interactive activities, it was fun to collaborate, share ideas on how better to do things, and what could work best, what challenges we would meet. So first, we agreed what type of output we would create. Then I suggested the topic idea from my ongoing international project, and my team member was happy about it. Nino approved it, and we started working on specific tools and activities. And we also realized that prompts would be clear, specific. Okay, we talked about it, and that AI assistant can better understand the content and instructions and provide relevant responses. And we were happy. Okay, working together.
Okay, so something in there about clarity, something in there about negotiating what that output's going to be, and something in there about planning and about the processes that you would need to go through in order to get to that collaborative output around that particular interest in AI. Thank you, Sylvia. Sylvia.
Yes, thank you, John. Right from the beginning, right from the very first forum discussion, I stated my concern about formative assessment and how we can help teachers, well, provide learners with this opportunity for learning. And I was very lucky, I was very fortunate to be part of this community of practice, because in the discussions, I learned much more about my own research questions. So the discussions promoted further thinking. And I was even more fortunate to work with Elena, who was already she was already working towards giving feedback with AI. And she had a lot of answers to many of my questions. But together, we posed new questions. And the more we experimented with the different prompts, the more we learned. And also, we were very fortunate that her husband is a programmer, an experimented programmer, and he gave us a lot of tips, which led me to understand that teachers will not be able to program. So that helped me and facilitated this process of working with teachers. And in this search for other tools, we came to discover Misu as a very powerful tool, so that teachers wouldn't have to go through all this process of writing prompts without the help of a programmer. So many interesting discoveries and findings.
Okay. So something in there about participation in a community of practice being very good for making you think about your own interests, your own research questions, for example, and something in there, not just about different competence, but also about people who are at different stages of their journey of understanding, and that bringing that to the table and discussing that, clearly a benefit of membership of a community of practice. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Well, that's really insightful. Okay, let's just move on a little bit more then now in this discussion. And we've got a second question for you then. So we talked a little bit about how it worked in developing a collaborative output through the community of practice. So in very briefly, you know, how did it really actually develop your understanding of AI, your skills in AI? For example, you've talked about, you know, writing better prompts, for example. Are there any other things, real hard skills that you developed in relation to AI? Janet, you're on mute again.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. So I think really it facilitates my thinking about AI in education by providing really structured approach to learning, to exploration, to application. And also it helped me to think more critically about AI's potential, especially while we were discussing this in the forums. It allows me, again, we have to focus on this, to collaborate, to reflect on ethical concerns. This is very important, and apply practical AI integration strategies really in education. This is very important with respect to any teacher, educator. So we had, for example, the prompt engineering techniques and other really other activities that we did together.
Okay, so awareness about safeguarding, you know, actual skills to do with strategies for its integration in the classroom, and I hope that we'll be able to get on to a little bit more discussion on those practical strategies, especially in relation to how do you know, monitor plagiarism and all of the concerns that have been raised in the Q&A box about issues to do with cheating and stuff. Eleanor.
Thank you. With regard to what we learned, any practical skills, yeah, prompt development is one of them, as Sylvia already said in her address, and but not only. And also I would like to briefly address a question from before. Someone said, where can we get ready-made prompts? I'm not sure that, I mean, it's wonderful to start off with something ready-made, you know, as you start to tap into developing these prompting skills, for instance, for teachers. But I do encourage colleagues to actually have a go. As Shirin said, have your hands dirty, because I believe that it's really beneficial for us to learn how to chat to the machine, if you like, because in doing so, we develop our own AI literacy. And I think that as teachers, we, you know, that an AI is happening, AI development is happening so quickly around us. We really need to step up and do the learning that the world demands of us. One aspect of that learning is actually developing our AI literacy so that we can support our students to develop theirs. That's one major thing that I learned as part of the project. Also, the project made it possible for me to develop in the first place, if you like, because with our fast, you know, we all of us are very busy, and if you don't block out some space for your personal development, for us, it was either meeting with Sylvia weekly or having a fortnightly session with the community group. You know, without the momentum of the group, my development wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have prioritized it. It's simple as that.
Okay, so AI literacy then, as well as the skill in the dirty business of developing your own prompts. Absolutely. And I think really key point that you've come to at the end about communities of practice and their benefit. It's that I'm going to block off some time, and I need to block off some time because I've agreed to meet Sylvia at the end of the week. So it's a kind of a way of ensuring your own professional development. Absolutely, really good point there. Okay, if we could move on to the very last question then, and I think like to ask you to focus on something really key that you took away from the experience. So people in our audience, for example, who are either interested in AI or interested in taking part in a community practice, or indeed interested in setting up a community practice that focuses on AI? Anything really vital that you think our audience should know? Sylvia.
Yes, thank you, John. Well, particularly the community of practice provided me with a supportive environment. I felt there was someone there, out there, whatever time I wrote in the forum or whatever question I asked, there was somebody there ready to answer or to help me out. There was a real audience, not only in the discussions, but for our collaborative output. There was somebody there giving us feedback. And I mean, in the experimental moment, we do need a partner. We do need somebody who's working with us, walking by our side. Each meeting, each new reflection proposed within the community, well, led to deeper insights. And I felt I am a different person now. I really feel that. Thank you.
That's amazing. Yeah. And even though we talk very glibly, don't we, about the supportive environment, I mean, it is nonetheless a really, really important key theme about not just communities of practice, but the way that Shirin in particular, with your knowledge and skills, help to facilitate and set up the community of practice, that supportive, safe, trusting environment was there. Janet.
Yeah, I think we have to mention the WhatsApp group that we have now. Shirin, really, it's very useful. Sometimes we're sharing links, we're sharing the publications of Sylvia and Shirin, we're sharing the interesting things. Really, I think the WhatsApp group is a great idea. I don't know if you agree with me, dear colleagues here. So thank you, Shirin, again.
Okay, so maybe that's something about the longer term. The community of practice was time bound, but the longer term, relationships that continue beyond that through, for example, WhatsApp group. Shirin.
Yes, we've started our conversations through a learning management system within the British Council and with live sessions, but then we wanted to continue our conversations. And now, as Janet said, we are engaging with each other because AI is evolving every single day. New tools, new publications, new reports appear, and it's really important, I think, to inform each other. And this is also one of the potential challenges I'd like to mention. So can I move on to potential challenges? John, if you would like to ask, if you don't want to ask another question. So
if we've got a little bit of time, there were just a couple of questions, if that's okay. Yeah, just a couple of questions that that come in from the audience. And the first question really, and it's to do with personalized learning and the ability of AI to support personalized learning. A couple of questions and comments have come in from people around how helpful could it be for those learners who are struggling in some way. Did anybody want to deal with that question? Any thoughts on that? Janet, you're on mute again.
I'm sorry. So I think it's really very important because it enhances personalization. So because it offers personalized learning experiences, and not only it can access the needs of not only of teachers, but also of learners. So we have to talk about the teachers and the learners at the same time. It adapts instructional materials. It offers tailored feedback, just like what mentioned the formative assessment that Sylvia and Elena talked about. And also it might identify areas for improvement sometimes if you have the right prompts. So if we are talking about COP, teacher educators in COP really benefit from AI-driven insights. They can really benefit, it can enable them to address individual learning gaps somehow and provide targeted support. So this is the way it might enhance personalization.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And then very quickly then, before handing back to Shirin, this question, this comment, this concern around the ability of AI to stifle creativity, to encourage people to be unreflective, to just take the easy option when it comes to completing their assignments, that kind of thing. Would anybody like to comment on that, about how it's, yeah, Eleanor?
Yeah, it's a real worry, isn't it, to have work done by the machine, therefore, which prevents you from exercising your own agency. And I believe that in our professional work and in the professional academic lives, if you like, of our students, being able to create something that you're proud of is such a source of personal satisfaction and joy. So we don't want to take that away from them. There are ways to use AI models in a way that encourages creativity, and I'm hoping we're doing that as part of our noticing project. So just to, for instance, compare two ways of developing lesson plans. The usual, the advertised, the very widely advertised option is, create me a 5-minute lesson plan. This is the teacher telling the machine to help them develop a lesson plan. What the teacher does then is provide some contextual information with regard to their class, etc. So, and the AI goes away and creates the lesson plan. I think that I'd be happier in a world where the roles are reversed, really, where the teacher is not just, does not assume a kind of admin secretary role where they fill in some information and the AI goes on and does the creative work of designing learning experiences for the learners. I think it should be the teacher doing the designing, and the AI could be more usefully used as a kind of support, as a kind of prompter, if you like. If we tell the AI what kind of things we want it to remind us of, then it can do a wonderful job of reminding us. For instance, you approach the AI model with a lesson plan with some lesson planning ideas, and it asks you, for instance, have you thought about this? How about this specific learner? Is the class going to be as enjoyable for them? Have you considered about how you're going to get feedback from the learners, etc.? All the lesson planning questions that you can't possibly think of on your own. Mm-hmm. The machine can do the remembering and the prompting. So I think we should turn things upside down, really. We should prompt the machine to prompt us to think better.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. And then very briefly then, Zerreen, and then we'll hand back to Shirin, who could talk a little bit more about the COP and to summarize. Zerreen.
Yeah, thank you, John. I just wanted to say that we, of course, can rely on the output we get from any generative AI, but we should know that we need to question the output, how reliable it is, and how much we can use it, whether the output suggested fully fits the context we need to use it for. So that's why, we as teachers should question it, and we should teach our students to question every output we receive. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, sorry we haven't got to all of the questions. Lots of comments coming in. AI has been a time saver for me, as well as being very polite for permitting. Thank you very much for that. Some other questions that we haven't got round to around the ethical considerations and safety and safeguarding some issues there. But hopefully we will come back to these in the future. Shirin, Sarita.
Yes, I'd like to share about the kinds of challenges when we set up a community of practice. But before that, I would also like to add that we are not experts about AI, although it has been our research interest. We learned a lot while engaging with each other and with reading documents, articles during our community. I think we would like to encourage everybody to maybe perhaps, if you have an opportunity, join a community or start a community. You don't need to be an expert. We weren't, but we learned by learning from each other. But of course, in this journey, we had some challenges. I would like to briefly mention, if you would like to start a community of practice about AI or any other topic, you can I will mention some of the challenges specifically about AI as well. For example, the first one about the operational challenges was the sustainability of resources. As you can imagine, one of the main issues is that AI is fast evolving, so resources can become outdated quickly. So you need to check them, or if you are a community facilitator, you need to update your resource library, or your participants will inform each other with the latest information. If we used some AI tools we didn't have major technical challenges, but maybe the data privacy issues can be part of the technical part, because AI tools rely on our data. And if you ask your participants to use some tools, or if you encourage your community members to use some tools, then they need to be aware of the fact that how their data is used. And engagement related, our colleagues also mentioned the cognitive workload is a key concern. So there are so many tools, resources, and this might lead to a risk of lack of engagement if the members of the community feel overwhelmed, so overloaded. This might be the risk. So you need to be selective. We were really very cautious of which documents to start with. And regarding the collaborative output, there is also a potential challenge of working with someone who is not responding or who is not available, and this may create frustration. So it's important to inform the community members that there will be a task that they need to complete. So they need to allocate maybe 2 hours a week, or depending on how you set up the community. And there are some challenges about also conflicting priorities. Our colleagues mentioned it. And design and inclusivity. So in terms of diversity, I think it's one of the biggest strengths it was for our community. We had some participants with a lot of experience with AI, and some participants with no experience who are even skeptical about AI. I think this is a good thing, because then you might have a discussion, a debate, and maybe they have some valid reasons for being skeptical. So, or the participants, members with more experience can share their expertise, and as we had in our community. But this can also become a challenge, especially I had this challenge when newcomers joined our community, because we had discussed some topics, and then when our newcomers joined, they didn't know what we discussed previously. And one suggestion for this is to have a kind of summary for each week, perhaps, or a document summarizing what has been discussed, or keep historical documentation of what has been discussed so far, so that newcomers can catch up, or having a buddy system, a mentoring system in the community in the long term. There are different options for this, but this was one of the challenges. And for the kinds of final tips, I will share my final tips, and if there is anything else from our community members, please feel free to do so. So one of the important points is that you need members for your community. So only start if there is a need. So it's also important to base the community on real practical experiences. For example, one of the most engaging activities we had on our community, in which everybody joined, was when we created a chatbot using an AI tool. It was very practical. Everybody reflected on it, and everybody enjoyed it. So it needs to be clear. When there was a task which was not so clear, there wasn't enough sufficient participation. So when things are clear, with clear objectives and steps, then participants participate more. And yes, addressing diversity and inclusion in experience. So welcoming newcomers, creating a welcoming environment for the newcomers, at the same time making sure that experienced participants don't get bored, and they share their experience and insights. So this creates a rich, healthy exchange. And I think it's also important to provide support and resources, but the community shouldn't be too easy for participants or too comfortable for them. So pushing participants a little bit away from their comfort zones can help. This happened in our community with the help of collaborative outputs, collaborative projects that we worked in small groups. And this helped us develop resilience, problem solving, and critical thinking. These are the skills that we need. These are the human skills that we need in this world with AI. So that we would like to promote further with our learners as well. And yes, this created a bit of fun as well. Thank you so much. So yeah, that's all from me for the community side. Yes, if there is anything else you would like to add, yeah, please feel free to do so.
Okay, thank you so much, Shirin, and thank you also to our presenters today, Elena, Zarina, Janet, Diana, and Sylvia. Thank you. Some really interesting insights on communities of practice in general and about AI. We've had lots of questions and concerns to some extent, as we always do on this topic, around things like personalized learning and stifling creativity, those sorts of things. Some questions about best models, best applications, and some important things there about getting your hands dirty and making sure that it's applicable for the context and thinking about it in a way that's empowering. You know, we're using tools, AI, in a sense is no different from other tools. We use it to empower ourselves, to enhance what we're capable of as human beings, and to view it in those terms rather than being something that's constraining and in fact diminishing our abilities as human beings. So thank you very much for that. Now, if we can have the very final slide, just to remind ourselves that about what's happening next. Okay, so there's going to be a post-webinar survey that's emailed to you even, and then instructions in that about how to download your certificate of attendance. The recording of the session is going to be available on our Teaching English website in the next few days. And don't forget, of course, to follow us, whatever your preferred platform is, to keep up to date with what we're doing in the British Council. Your feedback, of course, very, very important to us. So please do take the time to fill in your forms. Our next webinar, which again is going to be a very, very interesting and to some extent controversial webinar about the place of English. We had some questions today about mother tongue and English. And that's one of the areas that our two guests, Tony Capstick and Harry Kucha, will be dealing with. Other questions like correctness in English, like ownership of English. There's big debate around Anglo-normative, native speaker competence and that divide. Lots of really interesting topics that are very, very relevant to teacher educators and helping teacher educators help teachers come to some conclusions about these pertinent questions around the place of English. So I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions today. Once again, thank you to all of our speakers for giving such insightful, interesting, enjoyable comment and questions. And thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you next time in our October webinar. Thank you very much indeed, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.